Doesn't the altar just look like an astral celebration? So wonderful. Lest we need any more reasons to feel grateful that we found ourselves on this path, I was reading today about New Year's resolutions. I didn't know the origin of them, so I thought to look it up. And it turns out that the first recording about New Year's, the first recorded history of New Year's resolutions goes back about 4,000 years to the Babylonians, and then became alive again for the Romans thousands of years ago. And then most recently in the 1700s in England, some of the Christian people started having New Year's resolutions. During all of those times, the resolutions had something to do, each within their own way of, or their own sense of what they were meant to be offering. Sometimes they were sacrificing things to God, people, animals, but often they were a promise that was being made between the person and God to do better spiritually. But then somehow all of that died away, and for literally a couple of hundred years now, we've been left with New Year's resolutions as most of us know them, so that for close to the last 100 years, the most common resolution is for people to want to lose weight. So I thought, boy, we're really sort of far ahead of the norm here, fortunately. And then just as I, again, was thinking about New Year's, the term ever new just kept coming to me, because that's what this time is. It's always a new beginning. I mean, every year, probably for all of us, it's something happens where we're starting over. And I realized what a profound thing it is teaching for us, a changing of the world in a way that Master Yogananda actually added those words, ever new, to the interpretation of the word Satchitananda. Sat meaning immortal, or ever existent, we say. Chit meaning consciousness. So, and Ananda meaning bliss. So it was ever existing, ever conscious bliss. And Master actually added the words ever new. And then I started asking myself, what does that mean, ever new? We say it all the time, but what does it really mean? And it came to me that ever new happens spiritually in so many ways and at so many levels. First of all, it happens because so many new avatars keep coming and they appear for us whenever we need them. Whenever virtue declines and vice predominates, the divine takes human form and comes to help us. And each teacher comes, and we know every teacher who's come that we can remember, that we know of, has been really teaching Sanatana Dharma. There are these eternal truths, but always in new ways depending on what the time needs. So Jesus, of course, was teaching. His teachings were Sanatana Dharma, as of course our masters, as was Krishna before Jesus. But it always looks different because the people who need to be taught are so different. So the teachings are the same, the eternal truths that run through it are the same, but it's stated differently, it's shared differently by these teachers. And then, of course, there's us. And each one of us are different, whether it was 2,000 years ago or whether it's now. None of us are, not any two of us, are ever the same. So for each of us, the teachings are ever new because we need to take those teachings and grow with them, each in our own way. So Master came and he inserted those words, basically saying, what we need to learn are not any teachings that can ever get stale. That if it's not ever new bliss, if it's not a reawakening to the awareness of God's presence, of the power of God's love, that it would get stale for us, that it has to be ever new. And how do we keep that ever new? And then the other part of his coming to us is that he came as an incarnation of love. He came as a real bhakti yogi. And he came to tell us that the path to learning ever new joy is in the heart, that it's all about divine love, that without love, we can't really learn anything about truth, that we would never come to truth. We could get very close to it intellectually. We could approximate it, but there would always be something missing because love is that intuition, that compassion, that feeling that everything that happens that's of meaning happens at the feeling level that resides in our heart, not here. So Master comes and he says thus through Swamiji, who just puts it so beautifully in so many of his talks, that until we open our heart to the divine, we can't really know truth, and we cannot really know bliss. I remember one year during SRW listening to a whole string of brilliant physicists really talking about getting closer to God. And you know, Puru's even written this beautiful book, The Physics of God. But I remembered having the awareness as I was sitting there listening, that no matter how close the physicists get, no matter how small they make the particle, in the end, if we don't develop our intuition, which comes through the love of God, that everything we really need, all of the meaning in life, comes only from the heart, that will always be left with this little piece that we can't connect with. And it really is exactly what Master came to tell us. So he came to say, open your heart, learn to love God. This is really what ever new joy, ever new bliss is about. We just had this beautiful ceremony where we initiated 11 people into various places in the Nayaswami vows. It was so beautiful. I really, it was just inspiring. Asha gave a beautiful talk, and then you just watch and experience souls taking their next step, opening, wherever that is, from the pilgrim vow to the Tyagi, to the brahmachari, the Nayaswami. We're just stepping onto this path as pilgrims where we're saying yes to wanting to know God. And Asha said it so beautifully, and it's exactly what I was thinking about today with Master, because she was talking about what sannyasi vows were before, where they were a lot of what we're not supposed to do. And even mentioning the color of the robes, talking about the third chakra and fire, and how important fire is, and that it's purifying, and we know that. But then Swami comes and he changes the color of the vow to blue, which really takes us into that purifying power of God's love. And it's so perfectly right for the ever newness, for what we're doing, where we put our minds, where we put our hearts at this time of the new year. What we consider to be ever new is that ever new, moment by moment, reawakening, lifting ourselves up over and over again into the purifying power of God's love. And that until we have the experience of that love, that deep longing, because what are we talking about with that love? We're talking about the soul's unending desire to break free from all of the limitations that we've placed on it. That soul is so hungry, it is so yearning in just such a motherly kind of way to burst free again and to know love in all of its forms as one with the infinite. And this is what Master calls ever new bliss. I was, tonight when we were up here, I said to myself, if tomorrow night, and then the next night, and then the next night, we were initiating 11 more people, and then 11 more people, and then 11 more people, would we get tired of that? Would we not have that extraordinary feeling in our heart of gratitude and love and compassion and perfect joy? No. Who gets tired of that? It's impossible to be tired of the experience of knowing the love for God. Everything else we get tired of. Everything else is impermanent. Everything else, one way or another, settles down into the human experience. But not divine love, not that constant reaching for it. So let this year, right now, starting tonight, be a year just like this beautiful reading, this reading that Master wrote. And he lists in there everything that we do in this year. Put aside worldly desires as much as we can. Practice love. Practice opening our hearts. Practice inviting the divine in. Practice seeing Divine Mother everywhere, because it sounds so simple. It sounds deceptively simple. But everything Master says, even here in this reading, love me. That's what I need. Find me everywhere and love me, and you will find ever new joy. So every time we look at each other, every time we go to serve, every time we go to pray, let's all help each other remember to just open our hearts wide, to consciously, thoughtfully, actively be loving the divine in everything and everyone. Then we will find all of that meaning, all of the purpose of this life to set our souls free in God's love once again.